Alright, today I'm going to show you how to remove the grip and re-grip the badminton racket. So you can see here, I've got the Victor Drive X 888H, and it's got one of these cheap grips on it. I just get these from eBay. They cost less than $1. They seem to last pretty well, but the sweat gets to them and you can see it starts to go white, starts to wear through and become a bit fluffy. Okay, so I'm going to take this one off, and I put this one on, so I should know how to get it off, but I just use electrical tape. So I'm going to undo that, and then it should just wind off. This one's been sitting in my bag for a long time, so it's going to be pretty stuck on. Yep, there we go. So it should just come off pretty easy. And you can see that you're back to the factory grip. So that's what it looks like when you get it in this factory. It's got the Victor markings on there. So like I said, I just use the cheap ones from eBay. They come in a package like this. It's just got 7, I think, in here. 8. And I think this cost me about $7 or $8. So I'll open it up, grab a black one. Actually, black's probably not good because it's not going to show. I'll use a blue one. Okay, so these come, they're less than $1, and they come with the grip itself, which is your blue. You can get them in different colours, and they usually just come random. So you can see a couple of pink ones, purple in the back there, a couple of black ones, but they just come random. It doesn't bother me too much. So you get the grip, you get some tape, but I don't use that tape. I'll show you what I do for the tape, and that's it. So let's open it up. You can see there's your grip. It's ribbed on one side. Okay, and this tape here, which I don't use, so I'm going to put that to one side. Okay, what I use instead is some electrical tape. Now, I am in Australia and I get this at Bunnings. The brand is called Deta, D-E-T-A, and I just keep it in a bag because it's sticky. So if you put it in your bag, it's going to attract all the dust and then not be as sticky. So I just chuck it in a plastic bag, and then when I'm ready to use it, I'll bring it out, just fold the end so it's easy to find the part. And I'm going to cut some lengths, probably about 2 inches. I'm going to cut I'll cut one at about 2 inches, and then I'll cut one at about maybe 4 or 5 inches, about that long. Okay, so I'll do that and I'll show you what it looks like. So that's the short piece. That's it. And then that's the long piece. Okay, it's a good idea to, if you haven't done this before, to cut a couple of spares for each one, because it can be a little bit fiddly and the tap may fold over on itself, and then you lose what you're up to. So, but I've done it a bunch of times, so it's pretty easy for me to do it. Now this grip here does come with some adhesive here, but it can be not very sticky. That's why I use the tape. So instead of using that, I'm just going to cut it off. It's also a good idea to get a really good pair of scissors. These are Trojan ones from Bunnings. They were about $5, and they got a really sharp edge for serrated edge for cutting this stuff. Okay, so once you've got everything ready to go, you want to, well, this is the way I do it anyway. I'm going to use the small bit of tape, and I'm going to put it on the end of the grip. Okay, you don't have to be too precise with it. And then I'm going to use that to stick the grip, okay, to the end of the racket where I want it. So, and this will stop it moving. Okay, so I'm just going to stick it like that. You can see it like so. And that stops it moving when you're trying to wind the grip on. Okay, so that's what it looks like, and then you're just going to keep it tight. You don't have to pull it really tight. Keep it tight and just gradually work your way around the racket until you find this ribbed bit here. Okay, and then you're going to be winding it onto itself, and you don't want it to overlap. So you can see there the ribbed bit at the bottom here. You want to wind it so that the lower edge of the grip is just above where the ribbing is. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. And just use a consistent pressure as you go through. Don't worry if you mess it up, you can start again, no problem. And just gradual pressure, consistent pressure as you're going around. And you're going to find that pretty soon you're going to be moving your way towards the top of the racket. Okay, so you can see already, you know, kind of 3/4 of the way done. Once you've done this a few times, it really is a process that does not take long at all. Okay, so I'm starting to get to the end of you can see the ribbing there. I'm coming to the end of the grip. So I'm going to be starting to think about my second piece of sticky tape. That's that long one. Okay, it's triple the length of the first one. So I'm just going to keep winding, and then eventually I'm going to run out of grip. Okay, so that's it. That's it, kind of finished. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my sticky tape that I had before, and I'm going to wind it in the same direction as if I'm still going with the grip. I'm just going to wind it around, moving ever so slightly towards the head of the racket, and I'm almost like I'm sealing off that grip. Sometimes this can look a bit untidy, but that's okay. Okay, and then you can just press it in to kind of seal it off. So, and that's it. You can see it's nice and uniform, and where it's sealed off at the end, it looks a little bit rough, but I've been playing for about 10 years, and I've been doing it this way for a fair while. I would say about 6 or 7 years. I don't use these, so you'll see that this actually comes with the grip, and it's about the same size, I guess, same size of tape that I used here. Now the problem with these is that the adhesive on them is not very good, and so what you'll find is that it can end up coming undone. Okay, the cheap Bunnings, there's the brand there, Dita. Dita PVC electrical insulating tape. These are about $3 or $4 from Bunnings. I've only ever bought one because it's lasted me a long time, and I just chuck it back in the bag. Squeeze all the air out, and then just chuck it back in my gearbox in my bag. Okay, so that's how to do it, and yeah, it's pretty easy. Any questions, let us know. But yeah, you can do this. You know, you can do it to customize different colors that you might want on your rackets, or you know, you may want to do it more frequently than when it gets a bit chalky and not so pleasant here, because it is actually, after you've been playing for a while, it is a bit unpleasant to play with it if it's gone all chalky and the surface is worn away. I have tried other grips. There are toweling grips and more expensive grips. I always seem to come back to these though. I mean, they're not that expensive, and they're very easy to do. As you can see, you know, it's once you've done it a few times, it's 3 or 4 minutes, and you could do your whole set of rackets in your bag. Okay, let us know if there's any questions.